Welcome again to Quick Takes with Global Crisis Management. Today I have with me from my team, Christine Connolly. Christine is based in Denver, Colorado in the US. Hello, Christine, how are you?
I'm well, thanks, Jorge.
You are going to talk about the ISO 31030 section about travel risk assessment. That's correct?
Yes.
So let's start. What is a risk assessment?
So the ISO 31030 indicates that a risk assessment is comprised of three components: risk identification, risk analysis, and risk evaluation. Of course, there are various methods for assessing risk, but all of them should account for the health and security threats that employees may face during business travel. And then the organization should determine what measures can be taken to minimize that risk.
What is the purpose of a risk assessment?
Well, risk assessments are used to identify risks and identify the likelihood of an event occurring. So when conducting an assessment, it allows the organization and the traveler to understand the significance of both security and health hazards that could affect business travel. And then it allows the organization to prioritize those risks that require action. It also allows the organization to make informed decisions on, whether to permit travel. And that should really be in line with the organization's appetite for risk and what type of risk treatments are appropriate in preparation for and during a trip.
Can you provide an example of these security and health hazards?
Yes, of course. There are many. COVID-19, of course, is on top of everyone's mind right now, but there are many others to consider, like other infectious diseases, access to medical care and services at the traveler's destination, transportation incidents. As we know, road accidents are the leading cause of death and injury to business travelers. But it could also be things like natural disasters. Hurricanes and earthquakes are intensifying at this time due to climate change. Also crime, ranging anywhere from petty theft to organized kidnapping for ransom. And of course, the threat of terrorism and an increased threat of social unrest that we're seeing throughout the world. And you may also want to consider the personal profile of the traveler, as well as the profile of the organization itself.
How can organizations identify these threats?
There are various sources of information available to identify travel-related risks. And those include news sources, governmental sources, and third-party assistance providers. The most important thing to consider when identifying threats, though, is that the information is relevant, accurate, and timely.
What factors should be considered during the risk analysis?
Now, the purpose of a risk analysis is to get the full picture of the risks identified and their characteristics. There are a number of factors to consider in a risk analysis, including the nature and magnitude of consequences, complexity, connectivity, time-related factors, volatility, sensitivity, and of course, the likelihood of events and the consequences. For example, there's a perception out there that terrorism is the largest risk to travelers, when in truth, the incidents that most likely affect travelers are isolated, such as health-related issues like gastrointestinal issues, communicable disease, flu, access to healthcare, and as I said before, road accidents. So organizations really need to consider the likelihood of events and then evaluate what mitigation measures can be put in place.
So once you complete the risk analysis, what comes next?
Next, you evaluate the risk to determine, what other action is necessary. Here, you can determine whether the level of risk is acceptable to the organization. And if it's not, the trip should simply be canceled. But you may opt to move forward with travel and explore what additional measures can be taken to reduce the risk, like modifying the itinerary, reducing the number of employees to travel, adjusting the mode of transportation, reducing the number of travel days. These kind of options can be taken to limit risk exposure.
Thank you so much, Christine, for this quick overview on travel risk assessment.
Thank you.
And that's all for today. We hope to see you on the next Quick Takes. Thanks for watching.